Hi, Andreas. Welcome to Frich.
Hey, Alexandra. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I'm really, really glad that we got to find some time to meet today. Usually our team, we go out and we seek out people that inspire us. And the thing about your story that I like the most is that it's definitely unique in its own way, but there are patterns and little threads that I think we can pull out of your story that hopefully will resonate with a lot of people today and hopefully inspire some people to take a leap.
Definitely.
I know that most people would recognize you as Mr. NYC Subway, but that's not all you are. You have a very, very serious full-time job as a lawyer, and you've practiced law for more than 10 years. How did you get to this point?
I always joke around that I'm kind of like Batman, lawyer by day, photographer at night. But really it started, I moved to New York when I was 29. So before New York, I was in LA. I was working at a law firm. And I was, in pursuit of what I thought would be kind of my passion, my purpose within law, but I couldn't find it in LA. I was, working in personal injury at a great law firm. But I came to the point where I actually did a summer abroad in London.
Nice.
And I did an international business course. And when I lived in London, I really fell in love with like the city lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And, the Tube, actually, when I think about it, the Tube's pretty cool. And it's very, London's very on par with New York. It's very diverse. Mm-hmm. It's a true city. You get around by public transportation, a bus, a cab, or the subway. But when I got back from that trip, I realized I didn't want to work in personal injury anymore. Like intuitively, I was like, this isn't the road I want to continue down, even though it was a great path on paper. And so I was like, well, where can I, continue this kind of lifestyle of like city life back in the States? And I was like, New York. So that's when I got the idea and I took the leap of faith to move to New York. When I got to New York, I did my master's and then I got my first job at Goldman Sachs within finance. It was a really, great opportunity and what one would think if their passion's going to be, within business law, it would be at a firm like that. Mm-hmm. And quickly I realized, within there, it probably wouldn't be. And I moved to a different firm. And then about 2-3 years into New York, having worked in some of the best institutions and like being exposed to everything, I realized like I still hadn't found what I was looking for. On paper, everything was great. I had the great job, I had the great apartment, I had a great relationship. And I always joked I had, my membership at Equinox, but, internally I wasn't satisfied. Mm. So, I basically at that point in time, I realized, okay, you're probably not going to find what it is you're looking for within law. And that's when I kind of, I wouldn't say gave up, but I just kind of like said to the universe, like, I don't know what it is I'm looking for. Like, show me what it is I'm looking for. And I basically let go, instead of trying to control the outcome. And it's a little bit of a long story, but one day I was going to work with a pillow and I'm on the subway and I'm dressed, in my lawyer suit at 7 a.m. It's the morning commute. Everyone's kind of dreary, either eyes closed, looking at their phone, but basically no one's talking to anyone. Mm. That's the typical commute. But on this particular morning, I had a pillow in my arms and I was, bringing the pillow from home to work, but no one knew, everyone's looking at me like, why is this guy dressed up in a suit carrying a pillow? And it raised a lot of questions probably and curiosity within their heads. And some people were like, WTF. Some people were, kind of, that's a little cringe or.
Did anyone ask you?
No one said anything to me, but at the end of the day, it went from being what is typically a train car of no one interacting and kind of down and like kind of dreary to everyone was looking at me and I had their attention. I sparked some sort of curiosity in them. But I got to work and I realized if it's that easy for me to like change the energy or change the environment in here, what else can I do down here on the subway to kind of switch it up to bring a little bit more positivity to my commute? And I had an idea. I was like, I had two friends. One was a comedian, one was a singer. The comedian guy, and I presented to both of them. I told them, my experience, what it is, I'm feeling and what happened today and what I think I can accomplish, which is you guys perform, one of you two, and I'm going to film it. And at the time I knew so little I knew nothing about photography, videography. that I got a GoPro, which is like the worst camera in the world to do that. You know, no mic. It's a it's a fisheye lens. It's for action sports. You know, it's not for filming musicians or comedians. And basically, I told him, I want you to perform on the subway, and tell everyone at the end of the performance, I don't want your money. I just want you to take this positive energy and pass it on. That was the simple message, to basically create positive energy. And that's kind of what I was looking for, I guess, in some ways too. So within a week we did it, and we went around for 4 or 5 hours. She performed on 10 different train cars, and we got a little bit of everything. We got people, clapping for us. We got some people crying. Of course, some people, ignoring us. Some people kind of like, what are you guys doing? You guys look weird. But at the end of the day, what happened during, that experience is I realized, oh, wow, I don't need to bring positive energy to the subway. It's already here. It's in the subway itself. It's in the architecture. It's in everything, but more importantly, it's in the people of New York. If you look around on a train car, you'll see someone, writing poetry. You'll see someone making music, or an older person knitting a blanket, or, people's clothing, their fashion, or someone dancing. So that's when it really clicked for me. And I really felt it. It's I don't need to bring Ray Isla to the subway. If I just look for it around here, it's already here. The positivity, the creativity is here. It's New York. It's New Yorkers themselves, for sure. So that's basically what kind of started all this, this pursuit for me. But literally from that day till now, the switch went on, and I found my purpose. I found my passion, which I was desperately looking for, even though, again, everything was good on paper. But I found it in the place that I used to say, 8 years ago, that I used to hate the subway, and I knew nothing about photography. And fast forward to today, I'm literally Mr. NYC Subway, I love it. One of the top photographers in New York City.
I think it's so beautiful. I mean, if you spend just 1 minute thinking about it, the subway actually is kind of a magical place. If you think about New York City in general, the most talked about city in the world, the most vibrant, diverse city in the world, and the whole city moves underground through these trains, and most of us are kind of blind to it. We just ignore it. And I think the fact that you're just there, kind of just helping us see what's already there with just your own perspective, I think it's really beautiful.
The New York City subway, I think, for better or worse, whether New Yorkers want to and I think it's kind of like the punching bag of New York. A lot of people will just want to take it out on the subway because it's, it can handle it basically.
Yeah.
And it will give you things that will get, a little riled up, of course. But it's that kind of environment. And I think at the end of the day, though, New Yorkers have to love the subway. And I think it's a hate-love relationship, because without the subway, this is not the city that never sleeps.
I mean, I guess we could talk a little bit practically, 10 years later, almost 10 years later now, you are, by most traditional measures, you're really successful in photography. You've got brand deals, you've got a big following, you're selling your photography, but why still keep the law job?
Yeah, the question I always get is, when are you going to stop being a lawyer, right? And, my answer to that is, right now there's no conflict. There's no conflict between my legal career and my business. But I think the short answer is, and it's kind of like everything else, there'll be a moment where I can say, both on paper and intuitively, now's the time, if I want to comfortably walk away from my law career. We'll see. I'm about 8 years in, I think, coming up on 9 years.
Yeah.
And so I think it's also important too with any pursuit, but especially creative pursuits in the beginning, to not put pressure on them financially, because if you do, you're going to start doing things you don't want to do. And I was blessed in the beginning of my creative career because I had my legal career, a very stable, comfortable, secure career. So I never, for the first 4 years of photography within the subway, I didn't charge for anything. I did everything for free, because at the end of the day, I was just obsessed with this new tool, a camera, and capturing things on the subway. And at the end of the day, looking back, just building my skill set as a photographer, building my portfolio,
But I think there is a very interesting sort of, not like a conflict necessarily, but like for example, like when you and I first chatted, you mentioned that had you not had this like very stable, comfortable career, you would have left this full-time job way earlier and just focused fully on photography. And I hear you loud and clear, and I think this is very, very solid advice for people trying to turn their passion into a career, that you can't immediately expect it to generate a salary for you. But how, like, where do you land on that? Because I do think that there is like a little bit of like the golden handcuffs moment where, like you are used to your paycheck, you're used to your health insurance and all these other benefits. And it's obviously harder to give it up once you already have it. But at the same time, you also had this like really nice cushiony moment where you could experiment and you could do things for free and you could build up this following with way more intentionality.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of what I'm getting at is in the beginning of any pursuit, you got to get experience, right? But you need to do it for the right reasons, right? Like you need to do it because you love it and you're obsessed with it. If you're doing it to have followers or if you're doing it to make money, I always say good luck, because in a year or two, you're not going to be doing it. And this is a process of not months or a year or 2 years. Again, I'm almost on year 9, I think. So this is like years of like never giving up. And there's been so many points in this journey where, I've struggled. I haven't been, it's not every day is a great day, but like you keep going because you're obsessed with it. You love it. So that's why I say in the beginning, it's so important, if you can, to not put pressure on it financially, because I think, creatively, if you start making financial decisions early on, you're not doing it for the creativity. You're doing it for the money. And if you're doing it for the money, well, then you're going to get pulled off your creative journey. And if you get pulled off your creative journey, well, then I don't think you're going to be on it for too long. I think it's just very important for anyone out there who's looking for their passion or their purpose in the beginning to find something that isn't driven by likes, followers, or money, but simply just makes you feel something inside that again kind of satisfies that itch. Some people call it passion, some people call it purpose, some people call it destiny. Call it whatever you want, but it's just you find something you really love doing, and that's the most important thing in the beginning.
But I think what I'm hearing, because you can always have, right, like you can have your day job and then you can keep your creative outlet as sort of like a side hustle or passion project, whatever. But it sounds to me like for your creative outlet, like if you're ready for it to become your career and your thing, you need to like crack the code on how to turn your art into a business. So I'm curious how you did that, because I know that you are nearing the point, or maybe you're already at the point where like both of these are kind of similar levels of income for you. So you have successfully turned photography into a business. So I'm curious, what was that process for you?
So the short answer is, I always tell people, half of being an artist is being an artist. The creative flow. And the other half is, if you want to be a successful artist, is the business. So it's 50-50. You can be an all artist. If you have a team around you that handles all the business, then you can just focus on that. And some people do that. But you need to know how to make sales, right? You need to know how to promote yourself. You need to master your craft, of course, and every day you're doing that. But it's 50-50. And I think a lot of artists or people, even entrepreneurs, they get so caught up in their idea and their product and, this great grandiose vision, but then they don't really go execute, right? So, but part of that execution is the business aspect, making connections, networking, learning how to promote yourself, building a website. When you enter any conversation, how do you, approach that conversation with the right tone? And, for me, fortunately, I'm a lawyer, right? So I don't mind reading contracts. I actually enjoy reading contracts. I like reviewing contracts. But I think the reason why I do like it is because it's for my business, right?
Right.
But I am fortunate in the sense that like I am an attorney, and so I have that skill set. So I don't get slowed down by like contracts or emails or negotiations. And I think a lot of artists do. I think they get scared of it, right? Oh no, there's a contract. What should I do about it? I'm not going to give legal advice. At the end of the day, like a contract should be pretty easy to understand, even to a lay person. But get someone to help you, right? Or, nowadays with ChatGPT and stuff, you can figure it out. But it's that balance between the two. The beauty to social media and like the beauty to what I do is there's multiple sources of revenue, right? So what I've been able to create to this point is, brand deals are big. They're obviously very big. And I have big social media followings on Instagram and TikTok. But the more platforms you're established on, the more you can charge per brand deal because you charge per platform. So the first one really is brand deals. Like that's any content creator you talk to, typically the first thing they'll tell you, like their biggest revenue source is brand deals, which typically it is. Then the second one is creating a product. Like if you really want to like really make it and like not have to be dependent on brand deals, you want to create your own product. So for me, it's my artwork. I sell my photos. That's like my big second revenue source. And actually last year it was, I think, over 60% of my portfolio of revenue. It was a lot last year. And it was incredible. It was great. Last year was a great year. I mean,
I bet that feels better than making money from brand deals, like actually selling your photography.
It's good, but it's not as consistent as I need it to be. If I could depend on, hey, I'm going to sell X amount of pieces of artwork per month, and then per year, but it's kind of hit or miss. You do an exhibit, you sell one, or some guy, one of my biggest clients is in Australia. He found me through social media and he came back to me like, I think he ended up buying like 7 pieces of artwork in 6 months.
Incredible.
But he's gone quiet for, and he's a collector, but I haven't talked to him for like a year.
Right.
So, I haven't really created a product yet that I can depend on, but that's like a second revenue source. A third revenue source, which is a really good one, and I'm starting to tap into it, is getting paid by the platforms for your content.
Yeah.
So for example, for TikTok, if you make a video that's over a minute long, they start paying you per view. On Instagram, it's just over 10 seconds. And same thing with Facebook. YouTube, I'm not sure what it is because I'm not in that game yet. And that's why I want to get in there because YouTube is the best.
It pays the most. It
pays the most to their creators. So that's, part of my process lately has been trying to get paid more by the platforms. And the money's coming in right now. It's pretty good so that's like a third revenue source. Yeah. So again, it's tough because, nothing has quite, for me, been stable.
Yeah.
But the good thing is for me right now is like I have multiple revenue sources. So like, and this kind of, it goes into like each thing, like not just multiple platforms or different ways to make money, but like even within your clientele. And I think this is a good thing too is, you can't be dependent on like one client, right?
Right.
So within the brand deal world, within that world, I have right now like almost like 5 or 10 clients and they keep rotating, right? So at the end of the day, it's kind of like a numbers game.
Yeah.
But, kind of going back to what you're saying is, and I think that's part of the reason why like I haven't left my legal career yet is because it's very stable, right? Every 2 weeks I get paid. I have a 401k.
Yeah.
I have health benefits, and I've earned that career. I spent 10 plus years doing that. I studied for 3 years in law school. I did Cardozo for my LLM. I passed the Cali bar. I passed the New York bar. I invested a lot of time and effort into it, and I respect it. And I have a great career. So it's also not something that you just quickly like let go of. But if we want to get to like the juice of it, which I know for your podcast and for your show, like you guys want to know numbers and you want to know like, as far as what it is, right? And what I will say is, what I make in social media, depending on the year, like the last 2 years have been really good. The first 2 or 3 years, I had nothing but losses. I'll give you a number. Like for my first 2 or 3 years, I think I lost like 20,000 and then 40,000 my first 2 years. Buying gear, just investing in things, taking on projects, paying people without getting paid by the brands, traveling, things of that nature. But the good thing is it's a write-off. Those are all write-offs. And I formed an LLC. I have, my business bank account, but you can write it off against your ordinary income. So that was the good news with the losses is I could apply it to what I make as an attorney and it reduced my ordinary income. But I think the big thing, now that I think about it, it's just, is it here forever or is it here while I'm hot? Right now I'm an athlete. I kind of look at it like, I played baseball through college. I'm a content creator. Like I'm an athlete. Like I have to get out there every day and lug around my backpack and my gear. And like, if it's a brand deal, hats, or, yesterday I was doing, or Saturday, Thursday boots, I'm carrying around boots and like a jacket. Like it's a physical thing, but content creation is also like, it's a trendy thing too. Like, okay, you're hot today, but are you going to be hot tomorrow? Right? Like you never know. Or, God forbid it, like your account something happens to your account, there goes your business overnight.
Yeah.
So those kind of things keep me a little bit in check and make me say, hey, as of right now, it's not the right time to walk away from a great career within law. And until there's a point where it's like, okay, the legal career is pulling me away from my content career and really making it very difficult for me to go out and create content and post and everything that goes into it. Until there's a serious, like, big conflict between the two, I don't need to make a decision.
Yeah.
And I think, high level, and again, it's really going to be one of those things once I know, and it will be on paper. It's like, hey, I'm making 2, 3, maybe 4 times more than I do as an attorney. I'm established on YouTube. I'm established on TikTok. I'm established on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. I've got this much money coming in every month. It's consistent, unless something crazy happens, it's not going anywhere. On paper, it's like, I'll be like, okay, this is a smart decision. And then intuitively, I'll know too.
I feel like when I was preparing for this interview, I was going to ask this question, but the more I listen to you, the more I think it's actually working in your favor. Because I think, like a lot of people, me, myself including, and I apply to myself this all the time to a fault, where I feel like we have this bias that like, you're either this quote unquote smart person, right? Like you're either the lawyer, the doctor, the business person, or you fall into the quote unquote creative bucket where you're the photographer, and you can't really be both. You're one or the other. And, an analytical person can't be creative, and a creative person can't be a business person. Like there's a lot of us that still have this internal bias, but I was going to ask you what it's like kind of living this duality. But I think the more I listen to it, the more it feels like it's your superpower. That's what can turn your passion into something that could actually sustain you. And you even like mentioned that a little bit earlier, where you're like, well, having this creative outlet is making you a better lawyer, and being a good lawyer is making you a better content creator and a better photographer as well.
Of course, there's both sides of the brain. So I think kind of to what we're saying here is you got the right side and the left side. You got the logistical side and the creative side. And at the end of the day, I guess I'm a perfect example of both. Where like I can be super, diligent, critical thinker attorney. I can sit down and read a contract for 8 hours all day and just get into that zone of like, dot your I's, cross your T's. Then I can go out and jump on the subway and do a photo shoot with a rat, a guy who dresses up like a rat. His name's Buddy the Rat, and just completely let go to that creative flow and that part of my brain. And it's almost like a drug, right? Like it's this creative dopamine. It's just this amazing, flow of chemistry in your brain. But I can tap into both.
Yeah.
And I think everyone has their superpowers and everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. But I will say, like, there are things that I'm very good at and things that I'm not so good at. But anything I've always needed to like at least get good at, I can do it. So I would tell everyone, like, you got to do what you got to do sometimes, even if you don't like it. Like you got to like get through it to get to the other side, And I think someone told me this once. It's not always what you want to do; it's what you need to do.
Yeah.
And as much as people don't want to hear that, a lot of the process, and I think about all the good things, but there's been a lot of things that I'm like, damn, this really sucks. And I have to go do it.
Yeah.
And still to this day, I have to go do that stuff. But I think anyone's capable of using both sides of the brain. Like everyone is creative.
Yeah.
I don't really think, I'm not one of those creators. It's like, oh, I'm special. Like there's something about me that's like I just wanted it. I really wanted to find something that I love doing. And I didn't know it'd be in photography. But I think everyone has the ability to be creative. It can be anything. It can be baking a cake. It can be raising a kid. It can be writing a legal argument. It can be photography. It can be painting. There's different forms of artistry. Of course, like making music is like like what an incredible place to be, you know, artistically, to like create music, to paint, photography. I mean, there's different layers of artistry, but I think at the end of the day, everyone's an artist in what they do, and everyone has creativity. But I think a big part of it, now that I think about it, it's allowing your brain and allowing yourself to be open to the idea of being an artist, or what is per se an artist or creative, right? Like, cause I didn't have that up until I found photography. But once I found it, I knew what it, even though I didn't know anything about photography, I knew this is what I want to do. And because I was open to it and I let it in, then I became creative and let this energy kind of flow through me. And now I'm considered an artist per se, you know, with a camera. But I think it can be anyone. That's what's really important. And all this conversation is, you know, kind of going back to what I said earlier, you know, for anyone like really looking for it.
Yeah.
And if they're in a position of where I was when I was 28, you know, through my 20s, saying, hey, things are good, but I'm not satisfied. Like, keep going, like be open to things. Cause when you do find it, it makes all that struggle. Cause there was a lot of struggle in my 20s and my early 30s, especially going to my 30s. Like, oh shit, I'm 30 years old and I still don't know what I want to do with my life. Even though on paper, like I had some, you know, I did go to law school. I made a smart decision to, by the time I'm 30, I'll be a lawyer. But you know, there was a lot of frustration, but like, you know, everyone has a different kind of take on things. As long as you're happy with life, do what you do, whether it's creative or not creative. But if you are one of those, it's like really yearning for something, keep going. And like when you do find it, you're going to sink your teeth into it. You're never going to look back. And, you know, it's the best feeling in the world. It doesn't mean, you know, people always say like, once you find what you love doing, you never work another day in your life.
I don't believe
it's the complete opposite. It's really the opposite. You're actually going to work more than you ever had in your entire life. The difference,
you can't switch off your brain.
Correct. But the difference between it is, and I think what people should say is that it's more about like the reward system, right? It's like the process itself is the same, you work, but what you derive from it, the reward from it is completely different. And so I think that's really what the message should be, is once you find what you love doing, not that you're never going to work another day in your life. You're going to work your ass off harder than you've ever worked. But the satisfaction and the reward you get from it is completely different than if you just go work a job for someone else and, you know, do your 9 to 5. And I've done both. Yeah. It's a different reward system. And I think that should be more the message. And that's really like the reality of it.
I love it.
Yeah.
I don't think I have anything to add to that.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like the one thing that I love that we kind of very organically got to is that there's no such thing that you're either bucket A or bucket B. You can be creative and you can be analytical. And I think where I'm trying to get with this is that I think there's so many people that have so much doubt or worry, or they have this perception of themselves like, I'm supposed to be this, or I'm good at this, that they don't even like ever venture out to try something. So I think it's been so great to just hear you being very practical, being like, okay, like, you know, obviously I kept my 9 to 5, like I need to be practical. I'm really good at this. Like I invested so much time and money into this, but there's more to me and I can be both things at the same time. And it doesn't take away from either. It actually enriched both sides of you. Which
exactly.
Really beautiful.
I mean, look, you know, for anyone, especially in New York, I think anyone who is in New York, they're taking a risk, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't come to New York unless you're shooting from the hip a little bit.
True.
You know, and you're really searching for something, you know, that you couldn't find elsewhere. But yeah, I think if you play both sides of the game, you know, part of it is, you know, being calculated with your risk. Yeah. Right? You know, like I didn't just leave my legal career once things kind of started getting good with social media and then go all in and put myself in a situation where it's like, you know, I can't pay the bills. I can't pay rent. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's like a healthy balance. And I think anyone who's, you know, who has a stable career, you know, like I did before, but wants something more, again, experiment, right? Like just get out there and try things and let go a little bit and whatever it is you believe in, like allow for it to help you find that thing. But in that process, if you don't have to put too much stress on it and too much pressure, then I think you're giving yourself a better chance to really find something you love doing. Yeah.
Okay, one final question before I let you go.
Okay.
What's your favorite train station?
Oh,
I feel like you should have seen this coming.
you get that, like, what's your favorite shoot? What's your favorite train station? I'll keep it simple. Like Franklin, I love Franklin Street Station in Tribeca. The lighting there is phenomenal. I always get the results I want.
Amazing.
But I love that station.
Worst one?
Worst station?
Quick, first one to come to your mind.
Oh God.
Canal?
No, probably 23rd Street is pretty grimy.
Oh.
I don't know. The worst station, it's a bad question for me, but it's a tough one to answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
23rd then. Well, thank you so much for coming
Of
here
course.
and joining me. This was amazing.